it's Tess, and I am here talking to you guys about our new place and what's been going on and why we're here and why most of you thought that Kayla was gonna be here all by herself and I was not gonna be here for quite some time. But I am here drinking some water out of a coffee mug because I've already had coffee, and you know, just the aesthetic of all these colors together look really nice. So cheers, as Kayla would say. I am here alone because Kayla is at work, and my last vlog that I put up was kind of only of me, and I apologize for that, but Kayla was also at work. She started her new job. When we first moved here, we both had, I don't know, probably about 2-3 weeks off. So next week we will have solidified the same days off and the same days on both of our jobs, so we will have more time together and not apart. Let me first start off by saying that it is 37 degrees here in Milwaukee, and our heat is by radiator, and it's not the warmest in here right now. I burnt my arm this morning making breakfast, and I cut my finger, so I'm all bandaged up. Kayla bandaged me up nice and good. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get started, and I'll tell you guys what you've been missing out on. So, Kayla and I, like most of you know, have been on and off for 3 years and have been dating nonstop for a year. The reason behind all that is obviously because in the LGBT community, a lot of people are unsure about their sexuality for a while, so those first 2 years were a little rocky, but obviously we both know what we want now and we are together. So our year will be coming up April 26th. We'll finally be together for our anniversary. We decided to move in with one another probably 6 months down the start of this year relationship, because we both knew that we wanted to be together and that was never going to change. Obviously moving is like a big thing, especially when you're moving from 2 different states to be with one another in a completely different state. Yeah, it's just a big commitment, so we wanted to make sure that we were ready for that. When that was decided, we had to then decide on a date, and that date was going to be after Kayla had graduated college. When she was done with school was mid-January, and then we hadn't figured out on a day or a date just then, but we knew and kind of solidified with you guys in one of our other videos that March 31st was going to be the cutoff, and if we weren't together then we hadn't had it figured out by then. But we wanted to have a date and set a date because we wanted to have it figured out as soon as possible. It ended up happening before March 31st, obviously, because it is the beginning of April. We have been together for almost a month physically without having to leave one another, which is amazing and completely different and something we're not used to, but we're loving it. Why Milwaukee? Because we both really liked the vibe of Chicago, but we didn't like the cost of living in Chicago. So Milwaukee is kind of like a mini Chicago, and it was like basically just a good place to start for the both of us, money-wise. Also while liking the atmosphere and all of that. So we hadn't picked Milwaukee just then. We actually, when we had our trip in the last vlog, I don't know what vlogs they were that you saw, but when we had our trip before we actually moved in with one another, we were kind of visiting a bunch of cities in Wisconsin to see which one we liked. And Milwaukee ended up being our pick because Kayla ended up getting a job here in Milwaukee. She got the interview when we were actually here in Milwaukee looking. So that was just amazing. They invited her for an interview at the day before the end of our trip. And a couple days after she had gotten back to New York, she was offered the position. So that's just amazing and a blessing all in itself. So right before we had left Milwaukee, I had gotten an email with a position that I had applied for on a whim probably a month and a half before we even had left for this trip to Wisconsin, for the trip to Wisconsin, not our move to Wisconsin. So I got an invitation to be flown out to Dallas for a second interview. I had had a first interview with an airline. The first interview was a video interview, and I applied to the position on a whim because I don't have health insurance and I was going to need it by the time I turned 26. And that was kind of my parents kind of pushing me to get a position to obtain that before I turned 26, and it wasn't really me wanting to do something because I really felt that I wanted to. It was more so just having that insurance under my belt and knowing that I'll be okay if something happens, which is really important to me, but at the same time, my happiness is most important to me, and there are other ways to obtain health insurance. So I applied and I got an email the day we were leaving Milwaukee, and I was very bummed that I had gotten the email because we had all this stuff planned and we basically solidified all of these things and that we were gonna move here together, and that email kind of just crushed my happiness for a second because it was like, okay, now everything's ruined. I don't know what's going to be happening. It was like probably for 5 hours we were so excited that we had solidified so much, and then that after 5 hours it was broken. And she was happy for me because I had gotten a second interview and I was gonna be doing something that I wanted to do, but at the same time no part of me was happy or excited about it. I was kind of just really bummed. And then when we went our separate ways and we got back to our separate states, I had gotten more excited because I was talking to my parents about it and talking to a friend who had already worked for the airline and just learning more about the position and getting myself ready for this interview that I essentially wanted to do at that point. So I worked myself up to want to do it. And when I really want to do something, I put my all into it and I get really excited about it, and I'm usually able to do it. So at that point in time, it was something I really wanted to do. I think because the people around me and the people I was talking to helped me think that it was something that I wanted to do. I'm not blaming that on anybody. I'm saying that at that moment in time that it was something I wanted to do because I wanted to make my parents happy, but I also wanted to make myself happy in the sense that I was going to fulfill something by getting health insurance, but also all the other perks of flying. I mean, it just sounds like an amazing job. Yeah, so I ended up flying out to Dallas for the interview and I ended up getting the position. I was given all of this paperwork to study and basically what I was going to be doing for a month and a half of training, which was also a month and a half of pushing back living with my girlfriend, which was a month and a half of pushing back doing what I essentially set out to do and all the work Kayla and I set out to do. So in the midst of getting myself ready to actually become a flight attendant, I was taking drug tests, getting myself ready to actually become a flight attendant. I was shopping for clothing to actually get myself ready for training. I was also looking for apartments for Kayla because she was now going to be living in Milwaukee alone without me. As time progressed, I became less and less excited about the position. Not only because I was not going to be with my girlfriend, I just wasn't excited about it. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. I stopped studying. I stopped making flashcards. I didn't buy any clothes. I shopped for them, but I never paid for them. I put them on hold. I never went back to get them. And I wondered why I was so upset about something I was so excited about. After going to Milwaukee with my friend Julie, which was a vlog that you guys have seen on my channel, to look at apartments for Kayla to live here because it was more convenient for me to go and see them rather than her because I can drive to Milwaukee and it would take her, what, like 15 hours to drive from New York? What had happened was I was getting less excited, but I was also doing all this stuff for my girlfriend to get ready to move closer to basically where I was living, and then I was gonna pick up a move even further away from her, which just didn't seem right. It didn't feel right. Felt like I was doing something to kind of conform to what society tells us we should be doing at a certain age. One day, Kayla got a message saying that the apartment that she picked had fell through. It was so emotional because it was a week before I was leaving for Dallas, and it was a week before she was moving here. It had never changed that I was gonna fly out to Kayla in Buffalo and drive her to Milwaukee and help her move in, but then 2 days later I was going to pick up and move to Dallas to go to training. So that had never changed until she got the message, and she got emotional because her plans fell through, and then I got emotional because I realized that I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. It was like a wake-up call, basically saying, what are you doing? This isn't what you wanted. You're doing this because you have to, because people are telling you that you have to, and that you might be good at it, and that it's gonna be really exciting. And yeah, I mean, being a flight attendant would be really exciting. What about that life wouldn't be exciting? Except for the fact that there was no sure fact that I was going to be with Kayla in the end, because you get to bid for your base at the end of training, and there's no guarantee that you are going to be in the state that you pick. And Chicago was the closest state to Milwaukee that I could have picked. They didn't have a station in Milwaukee at all. So there was no sure way that Kayla and I were gonna be able to be together. And that was just like a pin dropping in a room, and instead of being so quiet, it was so loud in my head, like, what are you doing? And I got so emotional in the happiest way possible, because I finally realized everything that felt so wrong inside me about leaving to go to Dallas. I told everybody, and some people were like, she doesn't know what she wants to do. And then there were other people who were just like, good, I'm so happy for you. This is something you've wanted for so long. And they just understood. And those were the people that made me feel at home and made me feel so even better about my decision than I already did. So my decision had changed in a split second, in a moment, and it was the best decision I ever made, because we're here and we're finally doing what we want to do, and we're not doing what other people kind of tell us we should be doing. And we are so completely happy. Just get ready for more. If I missed anything, please let me know. I would be happy to clarify everything for you guys. My battery is blinking, telling me get the F off, you've been speaking for way too long. But yeah, we're happy. Just get ready for more adventure, get ready for more decorating, and get ready for more of us together, finally. Thanks guys so much for watching. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.